chased validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
Uh-oh, there it is. I'm doing stuff in the background. How y'all doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. Steven said, I got ads today, gonna let him play and get my man paid. Hey, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Um, uh, I want to tell y'all starting off, I know what y'all coming here for, and I know a lot of people had some stuff to say. You had Jenny, special shout out to Jenny May. She said, not ever a third term. We had somebody, and this was like yesterday morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. They didn't even want to wait till today's show started. They were like, fuck that, I got my 2 cents. I want to throw it in right now. Some guy said the disaster beyond any means. Some other guy talking in Spanish. I don't know what half of that says, but I know that godless doesn't mean nothing positive. I put up a poll for those of you that want to jump into the poll. I want to see what y'all got to say today as we ride through the show. I'm gonna be throwing y'all comments up there. I don't know where to put the poll at because every time, because when y'all watching me on the vertical form, the poll is right here at the bottom. But if you're watching me on the 16:9, the long form, it's off to the side. So I put the poll up there because I want to see what you guys got to say about Trump doing a third term. So I'm just gonna adjust the camera a little bit so I can be seen over the poll. We're gonna be talking about this throughout the day. So you guys get to put your 2 cents in and tell me what y'all think about Trump running a third term. But we are live 7 nights a week. We do not let the sun rise without going live, but we don't always start on time. and that's why we ask you guys to like and subscribe, and then also take a look at the membership and hit those notification buttons, because if you hit those notification buttons, then you have the capabilities of seeing what you can do about um, learning things from the. You said he said I can't click the no button. Hold on, what happened to the poll, bro? uh, uh, what's going on with the poll, bro? Reset the poll. Yeah, let's see if it'll let you click the. Cause you had typed it. Oh, I think you gotta put it in the comment section. I don't know. I think you got to type because last time you said something. See, let's see if we can work this poll out thing. But he said no. Yeah, another no. I'm trying to see how the polls work. Because you had chipped in on a poll one time before and put your 2 cents in on there, and it showed right up as soon as you put your opinions in there. Um, Let me see. Hold on. Let me try it. Let me try it one more time. Let me see what it's supposed to look like. You got your option one, your option two. You got to add option there, and then that's it. That's it. So you're supposed to just be able to. Oh, I guess just say yes or no. I don't know. Special shout out to Isaac. We were looking at seeing what people say, but if you're saying no, we're gonna be talking about that today. Um, Remember now, guys, we are live 7 nights a week. So we have different topics every night of the week. Tonight, Monday, is going to be one of those nights where we're going to be talking to you guys about how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. So, we do this throughout the week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Doing all right. Good to see you. We do this on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We talk about business and politics. And since today we're talking about that third term because that was a big hot button topic last week and the week before, I figured I'd go ahead and cover it now. But typically, after we talk about how politics negatively impacts your ability to make and save and invest money, then we talk about other things like on uh, what is it? Tuesdays we talk about business and finance and how money impacts your ability. Not that business and finance. Like on Tuesdays we talk about like ways to make money, save money, invest money. I'm just looking like, oh snap, they just gave me $50. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with that. Look, I'm multitasking, y'all. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Where did this come from? But it said do something here to the current podcast. What? Add a payment method to your such and such thing that y'all tripping, bro. Y'all better not charge my card. I'm gonna be mad. uh, where is it at? But anyway, after we finish talking about different ways to make money, save money, invest money, budget money, that's when we start talking about. Oh, there it is. Let's go 8 4. There it is. Got the redemption code. Accept and continue. Y'all better not try to charge me some shit. I'll be pissed off. Uh, let's do. Yeah, let's do this one because I'm not trying to. All right, fuck it. Let's do this one. Oh, they trying me now. I'm gonna have to deal with this after the show because I'm like, it says that there's a what you call it up here. Hold on. I thought it was up there. I could be wrong. Anyway, I'm gonna figure out what's going on with that because I had got an email about it, and then I'm gonna have to figure out what it's doing. But I don't want to slow y'all down tonight. Look, uh, after we finish talking about you, good to see me too. I appreciate that. Michael said JD Vance will be president in 28. Uh, I thought that elections, well, yeah, don't elections run November of 28 and then he's going to be president elect in 28 and then president in 29. I'd be getting confused by the times. But after we finish talking about ways to make, save, and invest money, we talk about on Wednesdays, we talk about different countries around the world that we can invest in, different places we can live in, preferably cheaper. Then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we give you guys information about self-improvement, self-development, relationship topics, negotiations, socializations. We give you guys information about building your brand, discussing how to get raises and promotions on your job, talk about retirement, talk about severance packages, forced retirement, stuff to that effect, and then how to build your 20 or 30 year plan. So we give you guys a lot of information on this podcast 7 days a week. And then Sundays we got questions and comments from the fans. So if you guys got questions that benefit y'all, because I know some people like want to get all kind of personal about me. You get personal about me in a membership, in a paid membership show. But for the public show, it's about me giving y'all information to help y'all do y'all. So today we're going to be talking about the 3-term policy and whether or not he's going to get a chance to do it. Now, Steven says if he gets a 3rd term, I will be the only passport bro going to Canada and not for love. Now, a lot of people said that when Donald Trump now, even though more than 70% of Americans voted for Trump, in order for him to get there, women, LGBTQs, everybody, who swears up and down, certain things, certain beliefs that are contradictory to his platform when he was running. 70% of Americans voted for him. I wasn't one of them. I wanted the $1.3 million that she was given to all the black folks. So, safe. But the fact is that people were saying that if he got elected last time that they'll leave the country. And that's when I started giving you guys information about different countries around the world that not only can you invest in and not live there, but also live there for potentially live there cheaper than what you live here in America. And then on Tuesdays, when I give you guys ways to make money for you, ways to make money online on a computer, stuff to that effect, I help you guys find a way to do exactly that. If you don't want to stay here, you ain't got to stay here. You can put your money on a computer, get paid off the computer, take your computer, book a flight, go anywhere in the world, and be anywhere but here, getting paid from here to live somewhere else, making your money make money for you. Did Oprah leave the country? I don't know, because Oprah's not important to me. I don't know. But we had a few no's. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with this dang poll. Because we put the poll up and I was sitting over here thinking that the poll was going to be like, oh yeah, people are going to start hitting that yes or that no. Oh, maybe you might have to do either hit number 1 or hit number 2. Let's see if that works with impacting the poll. Let's see how that works with the poll. Because I know we did the poll one time before, and the it doesn't show. Two. We gonna see what's going on with this. This is one of those new features from StreamYard, and I wanted to see. So I'm gonna stop the poll real quick. Oh, look. So it's coming. Resume the poll. Show the poll. See that, Steven? So you hit number 1 for yes, and you hit number 2 for no. That's how you operate the poll. And you'll start seeing people. Now everybody can dive in. And so if you're coming into the show, you like, you subscribe, you vote. Hit that notification button. And I think along the way, this poll might actually not just update itself. It might actually tell me the number of individuals that actually voted towards the end of the show. So we're going to let this roll throughout the night. I want to see exactly how many people decide to say, yeah, let's let this man run a 3rd term. I should have put it up like last week so that we could have just like teed it off. To press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. We can start seeing what these polls looking like. And I do believe that you don't even, you can just dive into the show and just put your number one or your number two in, and that will impact the poll here. So let's go ahead and get started because I know that you guys have heard this from Trump before, saying stuff like maybe we'll have to go for a third term, or a lot of people want me to do it. You hear him say when I get out of office in, let's say, 8 or 9 years from now. You hear him saying stuff like that. Donald Trump just keeps talking about it. Look, y'all, this man, this guy right here. I don't know if he's serious or if he just likes to be the opposite of everybody else. This guy right here put up a one. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Hold on. I gotta do see what's going on with this poll. Let me pause for a second. Boom. Wait, resume the poll. Oh, that's dirty. That's how I gotta do it. I gotta stop the poll and then start the poll back up. How's my poll bias? How's my poll bias? I had to see what your vote was. So what happens is everybody's pushing a button on a number. I have to pause the poll. It updates the poll and shows the results of what's going on so far. So everybody that dives into the comment section and puts one for yes, Donald Trump needs a third term, or two for no, I don't want him to be here anymore for whatever reasons, or two because you believe that constitutionally it's not possible. You don't have to give a shit about him either way. You put your one or your two in there, and then you throw it in there. He said, you can't have 100% if I voted against it. Michael, didn't I just tell you that this is a manually operated situation? It is not an auto update. So when I see people putting they one, two, and three in there, after people stop putting they one, two, and three in there, I gotta stop talking, go to the poll, have everybody hold on for a second, push the button so that I can refresh the poll and put it back up there so that people can see who voted. So right now, you got your one vote in there, and it looks like three other people said no, and that means that there is a 75% of the people that said no, because you're the only person that said yes. He said, okay, then you're biased. How am I biased? I had to update the app. How am I biased? I had to update the bit. I updated it to make sure that your vote was shown. So what makes me biased about it? Because StreamYard doesn't have automatic update situation. I wish it was automatically updated. That would be fantastic because I could just talk and watch the polls move just like during the election. So the poll is fixed? No, the poll is automatic. As soon as I hit stop on the poll, whatever everybody else voted is going to be counted on the poll. And then when I hit start and then show, it's going to show you what everybody else already voted. It sounds like a Democrat. No, actually, it's a Republican position. To be honest with you, because Republicans like a fixed vote. I don't give two shits either way. I'm here talking to you guys about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So I'm going to tell you if it is possible, when it is possible, what might happen, and all this, that, and the other. That's what we're here to talk about today. So anybody who got something negative to say about the man, this the podcast to say it in because I ain't gonna stop you from saying it. Just don't say nothing dirty about me because I ain't got nothing to do with it. I'm neither left nor right. I'm neither for nor against. I'm just that guy that's like, hey, some people are talking about it, some people don't know what's going on, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. I want to make sure that everybody is informed. So my goal here is not to advocate for the man to run a third term. My goal here is to discuss, is it even possible? And if it is, if for any reason, if it does happen, how would that impact our money? Because that's all I give a shit about is my ability to make, save, and invest money. I don't give a damn. Because you got people who are poor as fuck that vote Republican just so that they can say they're Republican. You got people that got money in their pocket and they vote Democrat because they want more resources to go back to the poor. So at the end of the day, the fact is that a person can claim to be Republican all day long, but if you benefit from any type of government service being provided, it is provided to you from past Democratic parties. So at this time, because as you've seen, what the Democrats did, they put caps on student loans. You got some college students that went back to college for their master's degree or their PhD just so that they could get the student loan money so that they could pay their bills, right? And then defer those student loans for the remainder of their life because as long as you're doing 6 credits or more, you can go to college and become what they call a career student. You know what I mean? So when he put a cap on that, that hurt a lot of poor people, right? But it does stop the government from going into debt based on student loans, and it does stop the poor people from being permanently poor, from having generations of debt, knowing that they're going to get out of college and not have enough money from their job to pay for their standard of living. So, I'm not here to talk about is he good at what he does, or is he a bad man, or is he the devil, or anything like that. I'm just talking about, can it happen? And if it happened, what would it happen? He said, you could paint a donkey blue, but it's still an ass. You're right. And you can paint an elephant red, but I mean, it's still in the middle of the room and nobody's talking about it. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to talk about it. And Donald Trump's been talking about the third term a lot. It's been a concept that thrills his supporters and sends chills down the spine of his critics, which is why I put the poll up there. So for anybody who's coming to watch the poll, you have to put it in the comments, either number one or number two, to add to the poll. So the poll is not like an interactive feature. Let me do it here for those of you that's watching me on the 9x16. This poll is not an interactive feature where you push the poll and something changes. You have to type in the comment section one or two, and that will impact the poll that we're doing right now. So if you guys want to participate in that poll while you're watching the show, make sure that you not only like and subscribe, but put number one in the comment section, or put number two in the comment section, and we'll see how this poll rolls out throughout the show. Now, um, shouldn't the poll give you an automatic percentage? You know what? I'll tell technical support that that's a good idea. But right now, it's showing 3 votes to 1 vote. So that what that means is that there's 75%. I do enough math to be able to do calculations. But doesn't the poll tell you like what the percentage is? I don't know. Let me look all over the place and see what's going on. Do we have it is showing percentages. Stop playing games. It is showing percentages. So on the poll, when you look at the poll, you have all the way to the right of wherever the vote is, you have the percentage of people that voted. What about the undecided people? I guess they're not going to say anything. 75 is not 80. Well, I don't know why it is showing 75 and not 80. I don't know. I can't really tell you, because I see 4 to 1, and 4 to 1 is technically supposed to be far less than. Um, well, yeah, no, that is 80%. So 80% of people voted for Trump, voted not to have Trump in. One person voted. So out of 5 people, that is 20%. The poll is right. The poll is right. No, Michael, you're just special. The poll is accurate. You are one of 5 voters that put in a yes, have Trump do a third term, and the other 4 people that voted so far put no, and 1/5 of the votes is 20%. So you are 20% of the number of people that voted so far. Now, everybody else that comes to the show and votes, push one in the comments, or two in the comments. And if you put that into the comments, you can add to the vote, and we can see how many people agree with Michael. Is Michael the only one, or will everybody vote against Michael? Let's see. Oh, here, let me do this. Let me do this. Let me put it into the comment. Let me pause the poll for a minute. I'm gonna pause the poll for a minute and edit the poll so that you guys know what to do. Press one for yes, two for no, submit it. Well, let me put in comment, or let's say, yeah, in comment. Ooh, ooh. Slowing down the show, slowing down the whole show, Michael. Let's see if I can do it. Then I can get the one last letter in there. There we go. Boom. Now, hold on. Now we're gonna resume the poll. So hopefully somebody hasn't put anything in there. All right, there we go. There we go. Now it's back up there. Wait, where is that? Where is that? Oh, I gotta hit show. Now, there we go. Now y'all got full on instructions. It's not four. That's why you simple, Simon. Four people, 25% times four is 100%. There's five, Michael. There's five voters. And five voters divided by. Michael, you slacking. See, that's because you old. That's because you old. There are five voters, and out of five voters, one person said yes, and the other four people said no, and 1/5 is 20%. So now y'all got the instructions. Let's keep going through this topic. I want to see what everybody's got to say about it. Um, Donald Trump has been selling Trump 2028 merch at rallies and telling reporters that there are methods to stay in power past the second term. His allies have even said that he's going to be president in 2028, and people ought to get uh, um, accommodated with that scenario. Making sure that you guys just get on board and just assimilate with the idea that Trump is going to stay in position. But behind all of the bluster, speculation, and political theater, there's a simple legal question: could it actually happen? Is a third presidential term even possible in the current American system? Well, a single constitutional amendment born from a crisis more than 70 years ago has a very clear answer to that. Oh yeah, he said King Trump, but I just want y'all to know that Jenny was like never a third term. This other guy was that's disastrous beyond all means. This other dude said something I don't know what it means, but I know that it clearly says something to the magnitude of godless leader. So while Michael's trying to be the bearer of bad news, the answer gets to the heart of what American democracy is all about. Okay. So let's get right to it. Can a person who has already been elected president twice, like Donald Trump, legally be elected for a third term? That's what everybody was supposed to be coming to the show to figure out. Like I said before, in that poll that we're doing, click one for yes in the comment section, click two for no in the comment section, and make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. The short and direct, legal, solid answer is supposed to be no. Um, One powerful sentence in the U.S. Constitution stands in the way of that. It is in the 22nd Amendment, and it says no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Um, that's it. It's not fuzzy. It's not vague. It doesn't say more than twice in a row. It doesn't have an asterisk for popular presidents or national emergencies. It says more than twice, period. That's what it says. Um, Michael's trying to vote again. That's padding the ballot. You can tell he's a Republican. Now, this amendment was passed by Congress on March 21st, 1947, and was officially ratified by the states on February 27th, 1951. From that day forward, it has been the law of the land. It applied to Eisenhower, Reagan, Clinton, George W. Bush, and Obama. All of them were term limited after their second win. And based on the Constitution as it's written today, it should apply to Donald Trump. The amendment is an iron wall. It doesn't care about rallies, merchandise, or how many times the idea is floated around. As the law stands, a third election to the presidency is constitutionally forbidden, but that just leads to a bigger question. Why do we even have this amendment in the first place? Right? Um, he said if the Constitution can be changed to limit the term of presidents, the amendment can be changed. I strongly agree. We're going to be getting into that. That's the whole reason why we're talking about it today. That's the whole reason why we're talking about it today. If it can be created by the powers that be, it can be changed by the powers that be. However, it must be done before the electoral year, because if it is done after the electoral year, he's not going to be able to do it. If it is done before that electoral year, or even during that electoral year, before the voting period occurs, where it is written in stone that if he is elected, say, let's say, for example, based on what you're saying right now, if the Constitution was, say, amended February of 2028, put into action effective September 2028. Election happens November 2028. Donald Trump is elected in. Because it was changed before he was officially elected, it can be done. But currently, it has not changed. And according to the way it is currently written, it should not be done. But it does not say he can't run. It doesn't say he can't be on the ballot. It doesn't say that he can't be the popular vote, even if he's not qualifiable for being the president. It just says he's not supposed to receive that title a third time after receiving it two times before. Now, I got some knowledge. I want to give a special shout out to Stephen, because Stephen quoted some of this stuff the last time when he was talking about how one of the presidents did four terms. You were right, Stephen. I did some digging, and the guy did do, in fact, four terms at one point in time in our American history. So the fact that we're talking about a third term right now, this is something that's been done before everybody can remember it, and it's something that possibly can be done now, and that's why I want to talk about it. He said, I think his money is right to buy a constitution. Well, yeah. What didn't that dude did what 250 million or 250 billion? I don't know, something like that. I don't remember if it was million or $1 billion that was put towards Donald Trump running a third term. So I'm like, sheesh, if billionaires are putting up millions in order for Trump to run again, it's not that hard to lobby that dark money in order to change the Constitution before it happens, because we're in 26. Election year is 28. A lot of stuff can happen in 365 days, and we've got a year and a half and plus more. We technically got 2 years, really, from now until June of 28 to have something change if they wanted to change. Hold on a second. Let me see if Michael's vote impacted the poll any. Hold on, let me see. Stop the poll and then resume the poll. Where are all the votes? Where are all the votes? Show me where the votes are. Ah, killing me, Michael. The poll started over. The poll started over. See, this is what you be doing to me, Michael. You be making the poll all jacked up. You be making the poll all jacked up. Oh man, I want to see this poll do what it's supposed to do. He said my biggest question is, if not Trump, who would you want to be president? I don't really give a fuck who's president, really. That's a good question for you to ask. But I just want to see this poll work. That's what I want to see. I want to see the poll work. Now look, America went 150 years without presidential term limits before anything happened. So why did we put these shortstops in place in the middle of the 20th century? That's what a lot of people want to know. The classic political playbook: if you lose, cheat, restart the voting. Well, Michael voted twice. Michael voted twice. So I'm concerned. Michael voted twice. So I'm trying to figure out like what happened there. Let me see. So whose vote actually got through? Playing with our lives over here. Luckily, this isn't how they do. Luckily, this isn't how they do real elections. Put your number one back up there, Michael. Make it a 50-50. Make it a 50-50 vote. And then we're gonna continue talking about this topic. Look, y'all, this is a highly interactive podcast. If y'all got something that y'all want to say, y'all can by all means put that in there. Put your 2 cents in there. Make votes uncountable and make it hard to cast a vote to restart and redirect. Ah. There it is. There it is. Now we're looking at a 50-50 thing. Now half of it looks like Michael's in there, and half of it looks like not so much so. uh, that's what did you, okay. So speaking of that, I'm glad you mentioned that, Stephen. They have changed certain regions that were there we go. Somebody said number three. He said, heck no. He's not the only one that said no. We had some that was yesterday before the show even started that jumped up and was like no. And I'm like, man, they getting in there with their vote. He put number three. Heck no. Just put number three in there. Let's see that throw. Let's see that go up there. He said, yeah, redistricts where the mod gets a vote that has a higher weight 4 seats in Congress. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, which actually messes up the ability to have a reasonable logistical voting policy there. Stephen, put your number two back in there. I want to see if it what it does to the poll here. And then Rich, put your number two back in there. He said number three. He said number three. No. Put your number two back in there. Michael want to vote again. He's adding the box. And we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going tonight. I want to see what y'all got to say, because this is very entertaining to see this in its process. But the story behind what's going on right now with the third term is really the story of one and only one president who broke the unwritten rule to begin with. And this is what Stephen was talking about before. We have a comment section full of highly knowledgeable individuals. FX Trader's going in there. He wants to see a third term. So to get the Second Amendment, you have to understand the powerful tradition in turn that became that law, right? And the one man whose presidency was so unprecedented, it shattered that tradition. And it all started with the very first president, which was George Washington. We're going to go all the way to the back. He said, I can't imagine Biden as president. I couldn't imagine it the first time, but I mean, for the right price, my vote can be for sale. Dark money missions. What? It's not, it didn't pick up Stephen's second vote. That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful. Stephen voted a two. It's rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged. I don't know what's going on. It's rigged. So, when the Constitution was first written, it actually had no limit on how many terms a president could serve. So let's pay attention to that. The founders, like Alexander Hamilton, even argued for president for life. He said Michael is using the mod. It's supposed to, the app is supposed to take in um the comments from the commenters, and I don't, it doesn't always register for some reason. I'm not sure, but we officially had five votes, and now we have 7 votes because FX Trader voted for Michael, and the other guy, Rich, said no. So with the 3 before the show that said no, Rich said no. We had 8 no's and 2 yeses out of 10. So that's where we were since the beginning of the show. It was 2 yeses and 8 no's since the show was posted. So we're gonna keep track of this poll and figure out what's going on. Because Hamilton and Jefferson talked about term limits. Yes, they did. Um, but this would be called an elective monarchy, right? If they just had like a president for life kind of thing, which is something that we didn't want to have back in those days. So in the end, they settled on a 4-year term, but left re-election open-ended, trusting the people to decide how long the leader should remain in power. If it's a um, popularity contest, if he got in there and did something good the first term, gets a second term. If he sucked the second term, not likely to get a third, right? 2 years with Michael's moderate. Hold on. Hold on. Let me see what I can do about that. Ah, uh, I got to figure out what the how did I assign mods before? I think that was a setting. Let me go to people. Uh, I don't remember how I assigned a mod. I think I can assign more than one mod, but I'm gonna figure that out, Steven. I'm gonna stick you in there as a mod. uh, that's not something that I've seen since I assigned Michael as a mod. Let me see. That's a new information. No, no. Let me see. It says if your house is in order, why would you want to change it? Well, for one, Michael, you don't be putting people in timeout when they be getting reckless. That's one thing. That's one reason. I haven't figured it out. I'm not going to waste a lot of show time trying to figure out where the moderators are. But when I find them, Mike, Steven, you're going to be in there as an extra mod. We're going to get that in there now. Since 1796, after 2 successful terms, President Washington was at a fork in the road, right? So he was still incredibly popular and could have easily won a third term, but he was tired of politics and deeply believed in the importance of rotating power. In his famous farewell address, he announced his retirement, arguing that a peaceful transfer of power was vital to the health of the young republic, right? Original Republican powers. Yeah, give Stephen the finger. Now, that one decision set a powerful precedent. It created an unwritten rule that was followed for the next 150 years. Thomas Jefferson, the third president, cemented that tradition and formed, and from then on, the two-term tradition was cornerstones of Americans' politics. Other presidents after Washington, including Ulysses S. Grant and Theodore Roosevelt, filtered with a third term, but none succeeded. They tried to tiptoe on that third term, but they never actually got voted in, right? So they flirted with it, not filtered with it. I'm just they fingered it a little bit, but it didn't work out. The two-term limit wasn't law, but it was respected as a guardrail against too much power being in one person's hands. And then came Franklin Delano Roosevelt. FDR was elected in 1932, right in the depths of the Great Depression. His New Deal and decisive leadership made him massively popular. He was reelected in a landslide in 1936, but as a second term neared its end in 1940, the world was on fire. Nazi Germany had steamrolled across Europe, and the threat of a global war was very real. In the middle of this crisis, Roosevelt made a historic choice. arguing that the country needed experienced leadership, and he ran for a third term, breaking that 150-year tradition. His opponent, Wendell Willkie, campaigned against it, and the New York governor, Thomas Dewey, called a third term the most dangerous threat to our freedom ever proposed. But most Americans, anxious about the war, sided with Roosevelt. He won in 1940, becoming the first and only president to serve more than 2 terms. FDR New Deal, lease ships to England. um, 4 years later, in 1944, with America fully in World War II, he did it again, winning an unprecedented fourth term. That's where Stephen was right. There is a fourth term president. Roosevelt passed away, though, just months into his term. So, after serving more than 12 years as a president, Roosevelt's long time in office, even though it was a product of extraordinary times, created a national backlash. That's right, December 7th, 1941. Um, Many Americans, especially in the revival Republican Party, grew worried about the power that had been consolidated in the presidency. They argued that Washington's 2 term tradition wasn't just a polite suggestion, but a vital defense against the kind of lifelong rule you just see in monarchies and dictatorships. Now, the argument was pretty simple. No one, no matter how popular or skilled, should have that much power for that long. So in the 1946 midterm, Republicans took back both the House and the Senate, making presidential term limits official and was at the top of their list. He said, dead, and then Truman became president. True, right. Now, in early 1947, they introduced a constitutional amendment. The debate was fast and it passed both houses quickly. It then went into states to be ratified. That process took nearly 4 years. But on February 27th, 1951, when Minnesota gave its approval, the 22nd Amendment officially became part of its constitution. The amendment was a direct reaction to FDR. It took Washington's unwritten rule and carved it into constitutional stone, making sure no future president could ever go down Roosevelt's path. The history is clear, but to really get why a third term is a non starter, you have to look at the legal text of the 22nd Amendment itself. It's short, but every single word counts. It kicks off with its most important clause: no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. This is the main event. The language is absolute. The key verb is elected. This puts a direct and permanent cap on how many times a person can win a presidential election. Doesn't matter if the terms are back to back or not. For example, Grover Cleveland served 2 non-consecutive terms back in the 1800s, but that was long before this particular amendment. If he were around today, after his second victory, he'd be blocked from being elected ever again. Now, this clause alone makes it crystal clear that Donald Trump, having been elected in 2016 and again in 2024, cannot technically be elected again in 2028. But the amendment's authors also thought about another scenario, right? Hold on a second. He says, and it was Truman who dropped the nuclear bomb. Okay. Then change the length of the office to 12-year terms. Yeah, see, Michael was a young buck when that back in the 1800s. So, what if someone became president not by winning an election, but by taking over? That was a question. The restriction for 2 terms makes no sense. 2 terms, 24 years. No, 2 terms, 4 years at a time is a total of 8 years over the course of a lifetime is what it's supposed to be. But this is going to be what happened when a vice president stepped in after the president's death, resignation, or a removal, impeachment of some kind. The amendment has a clause for that too. And no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected, president shall be elected to office of the president more than once. It sounds a bit complicated, but the logic is simple. It's there to stop someone from serving more than two full terms by way of succession, right? His money talks louder than any policy. You damn right. And for those of you that are here listening and watching, make sure that y'all like, subscribe, and submit number one or number two to the comment sections to put your votes in on whether or not you think that this third term should happen. We want to see what people think and what people got to say about it. He says, I have voted for 17.5 presidents in my lifetime so far. Yeah, he put in a lot of votes. So a lot of people can blame somebody else for the reason why the country is the way it is. You're the reason why the country. Because if you voted for 17 and a half presidents, and each one of them did 4 years, you're responsible for the last 60 years plus of presidential positioning. But let's imagine two ways that this could play out. So, for somebody getting into office, scenario A, a vice president takes over with less than 2 years left in a presidential term, right? They are still allowed to be elected twice on their own. This means the absolute maximum time anyone can be president is just shy of 10 years, which is what I talked to you guys about when we discussed this before, 2 terms or 10 years over the course of a lifetime. He said, you will too, give it time. Shit. I've missed quite a few of those. I've been here like, suck it, quite a few times. Scenario B, a vice president takes over with more than 2 years left. The amendment counts that as a specific term. So 366 days, you have that's how much time you have left in this particular position. You served a full term, right? So there's only allowing you to be elected one more time after you've done that. And in this case, the maximum times that they could serve is just under 8 years. Now, this clause keeps things fair, supposedly, preventing someone from getting a big head start and then 2 more full terms. It reinforces the spirit of the 2 term limit. Finally, the amendment had a grandfather clause, and it quotes, but this article shall not apply to any person holding the office of president when this article was proposed by the Congress, which wouldn't apply today. So this just meant that the rule didn't apply to the sitting president when it was being debated. Harry S. Truman, who took over after FDR died. Truman could have legally run again in 1952, but he decided not to. Every president since Truman has been bound by the 22nd Amendment. The language is precise and its goal is obvious, to limit presidential service. He said they will terminate the position of president and start the term of king with that kind of money. Executive order. I'm not giving up the office. Hail Trump. Oh, constitutional scholars overwhelmingly agree on the prevention of overstating presidential service. So there is no serious debate in mainstream constitutional law about what no person shall be elected more than twice actually means. Whenever the third term topic pops up, so does a wave of speculation about secret loopholes. You hear things like, well, what if he did this? Or couldn't they just do that? These theories spread like crazy online. And that's why we had to tackle them. So let's tackle the most common ones and explain why they're legally dead in the water. Myth number one, the non consecutive term loophole. This is a big one. The argument is that the 22nd Amendment only bans a third consecutive term. Since Donald Trump's terms aren't consecutive, the theory goes that he should be in the clear for a third, right? This is just plain false. The amendment says no person shall be elected more than twice. The word consecutive is nowhere in the text. The ban is on the number of elections won, not the order you win them in. So, legal experts are united on this one. The fact that Trump's terms are not consecutive has zero impact on his eligibility. He's been elected twice, the limit has been hit. Myth number two, vice president ploys. This theory is more elaborate. It goes like this: a loyal ally runs for president in 2028. Donald Trump runs as their vice president. They win. Then, right after inauguration, the new president resigns, and Trump, as vice president, takes over. He gets to serve, right? Third term without being elected to it, right? Sounds clever, but it's completely blocked by a different constitutional amendment, the 12th Amendment, ratified way back in 1804. The 12th Amendment cleans up the election process for president and vice president. It ends with a crucial sentence: but no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of president shall be eligible to that of vice president of the United States. So if you can't run for president, you can't sit as vice president. He says the limit for serving in Congress makes a lot more sense to me. Yeah, you can sit in one chair for 2 years, and then you go sit in another chair for 2 years, and you can sit in a different chair for 2 more years. But you can stay in a building for 30 years as long as there's a seat for you to sit in. As long as there's not 600 people running for 501 seats, you're good to go. As long as no, as long as you go unopposed. More often than not, Congress is unopposed. They do their 2 years and then they switch seats. Nobody ever challenges this. But Congress is voted for on a regular basis. Presidents are voted for on a regular basis. Judges, lawyers, not lawyers, judges, chief of police, sheriff, uh, school board leaders, everything to that effect. All of the stuff that we're supposed to be voting for, all the way down to town hall construction shit in our neighborhoods. All of the stuff requires a plethora of voting that we don't do on a day-to-day basis. We have so much stuff to deal with in our personal life that we could give two shits about taking an extra day off from work to show up somewhere and cast our vote towards things. And as a result, the majority of Americans don't vote. So the chief of police stays chief of police because all the police officers vote for the chief. Nobody else really contests the police. There's more people than there are police. There's more citizens than there are police. And if the citizens voted against the chief, it doesn't matter how many cops vote for the chief, the chief would be replaced. But since the average person doesn't vote for the chief, if all the cops would vote for their boss to stay in position, their boss stays in position. Because you have a plethora of abstain votes and a large quantity of for votes. Same thing happens with Congress. Same thing happens with a lot of judges. See, I wanted to vote for Pedro back in the day. I wanted to vote for Camacho back when Arnold Schwarzenegger got pulled in. It's just, it's a crazy thing. But recognizing what happened with the 12th Amendment, the meaning is going to be unmistakable. If you can't be president, you can't be vice president either. So the qualifications are going to end up being linked. So since the 22nd Amendment makes Donald Trump ineligible to be elected president again, the 12th Amendment automatically makes him ineligible to be vice president as well. So he can't legally be on the ballot. Notice I said legally. Didn't this guy have like 35 or 37 felonies before he got elected? So, I mean, does legal really matter here? He said Harris for president in 2028. If she's gonna offer $1 million to the black folks again, I'll vote. I will cast my vote for the $1 million. I don't really care if the country goes to squat. I'll have my $1 million properly invested in the right places where my money's making money for me. Laws are to be followed by poor people. Exactly. Exactly. So some have tried to argue that since the 12th came before the 22nd, eligibility only means the basics like age and citizenship. But the vast majority of legal scholars say that's not how the Constitution works. New amendments add to the definition of eligibility, where the vice president toy is a fantasy. It's not something that can be done. They said, wouldn't everyone get $1 million? No, not everyone. Special shout out to Uncommon Woman. Peace be Xander and chat rooms. And can't still vote, girl. One or two. One, do you want this man to stay in the power, or do you want this man to go somewhere and sit down somewhere and smoke him a blunt? He said, if ALC becomes president, I will see you all in El Salvador or Guatemala. So back to Michael's question, wouldn't everyone get $1 million? The answer to that question is no, specifically because according to the description of that particular political campaign, um, the immediate descendants of slavery were supposed to receive it. So within the first 4 to 8 generations of descendants from slavery. Now, the way that would have worked is that wasn't slavery abolished right around the 50s, right? So shortly after that, approximately 1965, that's when, oh, it's not about politics, it's about whether or not you think it can happen. So that's just a hypothetical. What do you think? She said she passed it through. She ain't trying to get in the middle of it. It's all right. So so the way it works is that slavery wrapped itself up around 1950, 1951, right? Somewhere in that area. I don't remember the exact date. Michael knows because he was still a kid back then. Uh, so shortly after that, a certain number of generations after that puts if you were born before 1965, if you, if not you, your parents would have been direct descendants of slavery. So your childhood would suck because your parents are uh, uh, recovering slaves. Your grandparents are recovering slaves. That's about it. That's where the line stops. So if you're a minority and you were born before 1965, so not everybody's gonna get it. He says Xander for president is not a bad idea at all. I didn't even catch that. He says Xander for president, Wilbur for vice president. That I probably should. I haven't even considered that. I can't conquer the YouTube platform. How do I plan on conquering the country? I was still auctioning off my socks. Xander for 2028. I'm with that. Okay, so the way it worked, well, I am more knowledgeable than some of the people that go up there based off of reputation. So to answer your question, not everybody would get the $1 million. It wouldn't be every single black person in the country. It would only be basically the old black people, people that were born before 1965. So if you from 1965 until now would put you somewhere in the 60s, your 60s or 70s right now, which would be like retirement age. So what it would do is it would help all of the poor black people that are retired, unable to work anymore, some of them probably even homeless, get a check and fix their dying days. That's pretty much all it would do. Now, where that benefits me, and that's why I would vote for it, is the descendant of anybody who inherits this can actually inherit this. So whatever he doesn't spend can go to his kids or his grandkids or so forth. So if I have a living relative that was born before 1965 and Harris gives those people $1 million, and that living relative gives that $1 million or whatever's left of that $1 million to me. I have direct access to those royalties. That is why I would make that vote. Not because I believe in anything else that she would do, but because that would make sense to me, right? That it would build a generational wealth or get spent quickly. It would likely get spent quickly, because even if it was tax-free money, the generational inheritance would be like the car and the house that would get bought cash up front that would likely go to the next generation. Um, a $1 million house, well, not a $1 million house, a $1 million payment, average person would likely buy a $500,000 house cash up front. So there would be something to inherit. They would buy a $500,000 house, or if they lived in California or New York or something like that, they might be paying like $750,000 on a house. The average minority that grew up in a low income environment without the financial knowledge of saving and investing would likely take the other $500,000 or $250,000 and give it to friends and family members that are still alive, buy themselves an expensive $100,000 or $200,000 car, and then have to pay for the insurance on that, the in property insurance on the house, stuff to that effect. Within a year of getting that $1 million, if they have any money left over, it would potentially be capable of sustaining their standard of living for the remainder of their days. If they win $1 million and then all their grandkids start coming around, start pretending like they give a damn about them, all their family members start showing up because now they own something, they're trying to get on the wheel, so they start showing up and being friendly, and now he's buying Christmas gifts and this, that, and the third. You can see them going through $250,000 pretty quickly, right? Or not $250,000, like 150 grand. You'll see them going through that 150 grand pretty quickly, because now he's got money. Now they're going to buy food, eating out and stuff like that, expensive travel, stuff like that. That 150 grand will be gone inside of a year to 2 years. So the average American is probably going to be broke, but they'll at least have at least one house and maybe one car. They might buy two houses, one for themselves and one for one of their other family members, and then after that be broke, right? That's it. That's the way it would end up being, because not too many people have good financial. But if they came to this podcast and they learned how to make, save, and invest their money, I would have told them, take that $1 million, put it into a brokerage account that's paying them 12, 15%, because you get the $1 million, and then you get the 120,000 or $130,000 off a 13% return, pay your taxes, but you're getting a guaranteed paycheck where you don't got to work, but you're getting paid six figures. You know what I mean? Your principal stays there. You can still buy that house. You can still buy that Bentley. You can still buy all of the things that you wanted to buy. But now you have a revolving capital coming in to continue sustaining your standard of living every year after that. That's what I would have done, that not too many people would have done. Michael says you better get a job. It ain't going to happen. To buy votes is not illegal. Of course, dark money. That's what they got out there. I would stay in a cheap rent and double it. But you came here and you learned a lot of stuff, and that's the reason why you and I would be on the same page. We would keep everything the way it is, and put all the money somewhere, and just continue to flip that money so that we would not have to try anymore. And then it would be more like taking a percentage of the money and investing it in big money moves so that we make money for us. He said, "My step up a Toyota with less than 100,000 miles on it." He said they would be buying flashy cars, gold chains. Oh, I didn't even think about the gold chains. If they buying gold chains, they're gonna have a $52,000 Rolex, $100,000 chain around their neck, $20,000 worth of Louis Vuitton clothes. They'll be broke inside of 6 months. He ain't lying. Great idea. Give all black folks $1 million. I'll see you in 13 months. It's your foreclosure note. They should have bought the house cash up front. They should not have did down payment. They should have bought the house cash up front. You might see them in 2 years with a foreclosure notice for that unpaid taxes if they ain't got no damn job. Because each person that get $1 million, they're gonna get cut off of their Social Security disability. They ain't gonna have no money left being handed to them after that. You got $1 million, you need to figure it out, right? But hey, I would say about 95% of the people would have got that $1 million and would have been broke within a year or two. And I would have been the remaining possession that would have been like, generational wealth, put that shit in trust, offshore, all this other stuff. I would have set it up in ways where my money's making money for me in different countries. So I don't got to do this no more, right? That would be the logic, but not too many people operate off of logic. Now, the third myth, this is going to be the third myth that we've got going on right now. The Speaker of the House gambit. This one is even more of a stretch to a third term president. It uses the Presidential Succession Act. The idea is that Trump could get appointed as Speaker of the House. Then a friendly president and vice president that both got elected would both resign, making the Speaker of the House next in line to be president, right? This is a pure political fascination. Okay. This is fan fiction like no other. First, the political coordination required is almost impossible to imagine. But more importantly, it hits the same legal wall. The Presidential Succession Act itself says anyone who takes over presidency has to meet the constitutional eligibility requirements for the office. So even if he were speaker, he'd be ineligible to act as president because he's already been elected twice. Any attempts to use this path would be immediately challenged in court and struck down as an obvious runaround of the 22nd Amendment. He said, they didn't for the cost, but for the taxes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. They're going to get snatched up. They're going to have to mortgage the house to pay for the taxes, and then they're going to lose the house in foreclosure because they ain't got no damn job. Myth number 4, just ignore the law, right? We're going to go off of this one in just a second. That act shall be done anyway with by executive order. Stephen is on the same point that I'm on. He just said, look, I'm going to do it because I can. This is going to be the most extreme scenario. So what if Trump just ignores the 22nd Amendment? He's already talking about it. What if he runs anyway, right? Dares the system to stop him, which is what he always does, right? This would trigger a constitutional crisis of the highest order, but the system has a firewall, the courts, the same courts that stopped him from taxing Iran 200% tariffs, which started this war in the beginning. State election officials would be sued to stop them from printing ballots with an ineligible candidate. So they cannot print voters' ballots with a non-eligible candidate listed on it. Even if some did and those electoral votes were cast, they'd be challenged when Congress meets to certify the election, right? Ultimately, the Supreme Court would have to rule. Given the clear text of the 22nd Amendment, the legal consensus is the court would have no choice but to declare him ineligible and void any votes cast in his favor. Right? Administration Corp. Yeah, $1 billion. The dude can buy the fucking court. But we're just talking about this stuff. Now, for this to work, you need more than just ignoring the Constitution. You're going to need the complete collapse of the rule of law in America. So if all of the loopholes that we got going on are fantasies, is there any legal path to a third term? Yes, there is specifically one, but it is one of the hardest things to do in American political system. Amending that Constitution, like Michael said at the beginning of the show. The framers wanted the Constitution to be a stable, lasting document, not something that could be changed on a whim. So they set a very, very, very high bar for amending it. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, because that's how FDR got in there. He was a wartime president. Right now we have a wartime president, but you got to understand we're in 2026 at war. If we are still at war in 2028 during election time, he's going to be a wartime president. And I have not read anything about a wartime president. I should have. He said Supreme Court is nominated by the president. And he did change most of the people to be in his favor, but the Supreme Court still stopped his ass from using those tariffs. So you have to understand, is there a possibility that some of the people, because he called that person a traitor, the person that stopped him from using the 200% tariffs, does he have the Supreme Court in his pocket? Not right now, because the Supreme Court ruled against him with the tariffs. Will he have the Supreme Court in his pocket by 2028? Who knows? But amending the Constitution is laid out in Article 5. It's a two-step process: proposal and ratification. First, an amendment has to be proposed. That's the first thing that has to happen. And this usually happens when it passes with two-thirds majority in both the House and the Senate. That's not a simple majority. It means getting 290 votes in the House and 67 votes in the Senate, right? Every president has been at war. Um, I don't believe Joe Biden was at war, and I also don't believe that Obama was at war. I believe that we had troops in other countries in conflict when Joe Biden recalled the troops. I could be wrong. Actually, wait, hold on. Well, 9/11 was during Joe Biden, I mean, Barack Obama's term, right? Um, because when he went after bin Laden, uh, I guess we can call that was a war. I would call it a military scrimmage. That's what I would call it. I wouldn't really call that a war. That shit didn't last for days. It was just like they went over there, they bombed some shit, they took it over. Like Bush, right? Bush is a wartime president, right? And I believe that Obama inherited the already existing conflict. Obama didn't start the conflict, it just happened while he was there. Bush term in 2001. Okay, so when Obama got into office, Obama inherited George Bush's war, and Obama recalled the troops after that, and no war happened with Obama during that time frame. I recall that there were some scenarios where we went and recovered refugees from captivity. There was something in Egypt one year, but there was no scenario where Obama was like, "We're going to war." No, he said, "We're gonna bring our people back." That's what he said. And gas prices went down. He said, "Biden, Afghanistan." Bro, Afghanistan was already happening. What did Biden do? What conflict did Joe Biden? Because you just don't like Joe Biden because he's Democrat, not because he actually did anything. Because his old ass was probably sitting in a retirement chair letting Kamala Harris call the shots. So exactly what conflict did Biden start in Afghanistan? Because from what I understand, Afghanistan was George Bush, according to what FX Trader was talking about when we went to Afghanistan to begin with and got all the people who blew up the Twin Towers and all of that and the other, right? Uh, I want to I want to learn the oil game like Bush knows. I know, right? He said Obama was Iraq and Afghanistan. Michael be sideways about his information. So uh Obama, okay, let me all right, let's ratify some of this information before we keep going about this third term president thing because uh Michael be throwing out stuff and it be semi accurate and I just be really wanting to make sure that we are 100% accurate. Um so let's see if Obama started any wars during his term or Biden. And we're going to see exactly what you're talking about here. Okay. So, according to a deep search, neither Barack Obama nor Joe Biden formally started a war in the sense of Congress declaring a new war, but both oversaw significant new or expanding U.S. military operations while in office. So Obama inherited the major war in Iraq and Afghanistan from George W. Bush and initially increased U.S. troops levels in Afghanistan before later drawing them down. During his presidency, the United States launched a major air campaign and intervention in Libya in 2011, along with other partners, which is often described as a new war, even though it wasn't a formally declared war. His administration also expanded drone strikes and special operation actions in countries such as Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia, meaning U.S. forces were engaged in combat in multiple theaters throughout his two terms. But he didn't start the war, he just used it. Now, Biden, as president, has not initiated a brand new war where the United States is primarily combatant with a large group of forces. And there has been no formal U.S. declaration of war under him. Major wars like Russia, full scale invasions of Ukraine, and the Israeli Hamas war started with other actors. But the United States under Biden has provided extensive military aid, weapons intelligence, and diplomatic backing, especially to Ukraine and Israel, without deploying U.S. combat troops directly into those wars. Biden also oversaw the final U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021, which ended the direct U.S. combat role there, though the manner of the withdrawal was heavily criticized. So, bottom line, Obama did not get a formal declaration of war, but did begin major new combat operations, especially in Libya, and expanded ongoing conflicts inherited from George Bush. And Biden has not started a formal new war or sent large U.S. ground forces into a fresh conflict, but has deeply involved the United States in existing wars through the aid support and limited strikes. So, Michael, is that Obama and Hillary Clinton caused the demise of Muhammad Gaddafi. Well, I don't know nothing about that. I'm not even gonna challenge that. He said they were still at war. Never stated that they started a war. So I'm gonna stand by my position that because let's go back to um, you said every president has been at war, and no, he inherited a war and then he stopped the war. And then you're talking about Biden. Specifically, Biden wasn't at war. A skirmish is not war. He said North and South Korea are technically still at war. Yes, but North and South Korea is still technically being at war. It doesn't change the fact that technically, when you start talking about technicalities, uh, Obama and Joe Biden did not involve the United States in war style conflict. He said, what about the war on drugs? Didn't they fight? The war on drugs started in the 90s, bro. So if it happened before you got here and you're just existing in it, I wouldn't apply that to you. So, say for example, Stephen, you went to work, your job got robbed, a bunch of people got massacred. You show up, you clock in, you've got to run the show. In the midst of the crime scene, you got to run the show. People can say that you worked at a crime scene, but people can't say that you were involved in the crime that happened at the job because it was there when you got to work. Likewise, Michael is trying to say that, every president has been to war. No, not every president has been to war. Obama bombed 7 different countries. That's not war, bro. That is not war. What we're doing right now with Iran, that's war, right? So you have to subjugate military tactics from full scale war. You have to subjugate that. And then pay attention to the difference between um, a president going to war or entertaining a war versus a president that is like not really paying attention to the war and the war is just happening kind of thing, right? It was there when I got elected. It's kind of just like something I got to deal with now. But, you know, I'm not bringing us to war. I'm not like, yes, wartime. You know what I mean? Big difference. On war has not been declared. But wait, what you mean? Because right now, for Donald Trump, war has been declared. So the Second Amendment has to be ratified. When we start talking about in order for Donald Trump to run a third term, Second Amendment has to be ratified. This is going to require three-fourths of the state to approve it, and that's going to mean 38 out of 50 state legislators have to vote yes. Now, the two-step supermajority is an incredibly tough hurdle to cross. And then we got to think about the timeline because when are they going to vote for this? Special shout out to Aztec. When are they going to vote for this? Because somebody would have to put that into motion now so that it can be on the docket and on the ballot to be voted for before the election year resolves itself so that the decision can be made before the election year resolves itself. Because if all 50 states or at least the 49 ones don't dive in, it's going to be a problem. Uh, he says Congress is the only one that could declare war, and they have not done that. We'll double check that, Jack. Special shout out to Joe Jack. Either way, or how would you call it? Someone is dying. Yeah, yeah. Not just someone is dying. A lot of someone's is dying. A lot of someone's is dying. Um, so the United States and Israel have been at war with Iran and its regional allies since late February 2026, following the large-scale airstrike that opened the conflict. A ceasefire reduced the tempo of fighting, but President Trump is now saying that this ceasefire is on life support after rejecting Iran's last proposal to end the conflict. Um, so, gentlemen, so first of all, my man Joe Jack said that Congress is the only one that could declare war, and they have not done that. Um, but we're still at war though. So let's see who all who all can declare war. Let's see who all can declare war because we're currently at war. But you know, I guess we can call it like an accidental, like we slipped into it. Legally and politically, this is being described as an ongoing war by the United States officials and major media and the political analysts. Military large strikes have slowed compared to when the weeks had opened, but both sides remain mobilized, and the front could heat back up quickly if the ceasefire collapses. Um, so the formal and official person that can declare war might be Congress, but the president can still initiate or conduct some military actions without a formal declaration. Constitutionally, whoever declares war in Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution gives that power to Congress to officially declare war, which is widely understood as an exclusive congressional power. But the Senate own guidance states that the Constitution grants congressional uh, uh, Congress the sole power to declare that war. However, the president's role in war powers, where the president, as commander in chief under Article 2, can direct the military and respond to attacks or limited emergencies without the formal declaration. Historically, presidents have often used force under separate authorities like authorizations for use of military force or claimed inherited authority for limited police actions without Congress issuing an official declaration for war. So, in practice, Congress can declare war, uh, the pass authorizations for the use of military forces, fund or defund operations, and set rules for the armed forces, but the president can conduct and lead military operations once authorized, and in some views, initiate short-term or defensive actions subject to later congressional approval under the War Powers Resolution. So what we're dealing with right now, since we are at war right now with Iran, where it's kind of like a ceasefire, so technically, like full on, like blowing shit up like we were doing a few months ago. But yeah, we're at war. Michael says, name the last America has not been at war or conflict with other countries. Uh, oh, name the last time America has not been at war or with conflict in another country. I don't understand your point though, Michael, because again, America being in a conflict with another country versus America being at war with another country as a result of the actions of the president is two different things. So your original declaration that every president's been to war, no, not every president. And when you specifically pointed out Obama and Biden, I just read the information that proves to you that no, they were not dealing with war. What Joe Biden, not Joe Biden, what Obama inherited in his first term from George Bush, he resolved. And then after that, he had regular military strikes. Now, if you were to say that every president in the history of America has been involved in um, military actions against other countries, yeah, I could say that because we always got our nose in other people's business. But when you say war, specifically the fundamental identification of a war, no, not every president has been there. Joe Jack said they won't be able to amend that Second Amendment. And I'm about to go into that real quick, Joe. Special shout out to Joe Jack. He says, if you kidnap a leader, what is that an act of? And I'm going to tell you right now, Stephen, kidnapping a leader is considered an act of war, but they actually identified that as a small military excursion, which is completely. But who did the kidnapping though? Donald Trump. They don't call assassination attempts acts of war. So the assassination of bin Laden, that wasn't an act of war. He said this ain't slipped in war accidentally. He's like, we just oops without a condom, just slipped into war. And they slipped into war with no Diddy oil. Michael says in 1935 to 1940 was the last time America had peace when America persuaded strict isolation or pursued strict isolation following the Great Depression. Okay, now uh, let's just pause right there, Michael. Now, your statement. Now, you're saying from 1935 to 1940, America had peace. That's about 5 years, which is at least one presidential term. Now, let's go back to your last comment where you said, now I'm just saying what you said. You said, now where is it at? Uh, you said every president. You said every president has been at war. I'm going to find that comment there. Every president has been at war. Now, if there's at least one president in the history of the United States that wasn't at war because we had 5 years of peacetime, then that means that you're not correct. Not every president has been at war. The majority of presidents have been at war. A minor technicality. True, right? Obama killed bin Laden. He personally didn't, but I mean, people were blowing up bin Laden's mountainside estate during Obama's term. What about when Obama killed Ganondorf? What about it? That just he's talking about Ganondorf. um, would you consider any political power eliminating another political power a act of war? Yeah, she did. Uncommon Woman did mention that way back in the comment section. Like, and would you consider that an act of war? Because an assassination or an assassination attempt is not actually like wartime stuff, right? We have presidential assassinations every time Donald Trump is in office. But are we? Make sure y'all like and subscribe. But are we at war with ourselves right now? No, we're not at war. So a small military excursion that assassinates a world leader, that's an assassination. That's not a war. An ongoing conflict with another country that has disrupted the trades of all countries around the world, that would be more to the magnitude of a long-standing war style conflict. He said Obama was the first president in many lifetimes that looks like he was physically fit enough to go to war and lead one. You ain't lying. He's the only one since then. And he retired with his 2 terms. He wasn't trying to do a third. He went in there with regular hair, came out of there with salt and pepper chicken hair. He hadn't grown grays and everything. He said the word world salad. True. But let's think about this. Let's think about this because Joe said that amendment to the 22nd Amendment can't happen. Um, not right now. So let's think about that observation. Over 11,000 amendments have been proposed into the United States history, but only 27 of them have ever been made all the way through the process. So the last one was over 30 years ago, and it only happened once in American history that an amendment was repealed. And that occurred in 1933. The 21st Amendment repealed the 18th Amendment, which was prohibition. So while it's theoretically possible to repeal the 22nd Amendment, it would take a massive national consensus that just doesn't exist in today's divided political world because we have, like I said, about 70% of people voted for Trump, but probably 50% of the people that voted for Trump isn't benefiting from what Trump was doing. And those are going to be the females, the LGBTQ community, and the poor folks. That's it. That's like 3/4 of it, right? He said, Joe Jack, he said, Libya probably considered an act of war. But was Libya done by Barack Obama or Joe Biden, or was Libya just an act of war in American history by one of the presidents? Is it taking a sovereign president out? Then okay. Taking out a sovereign president, did I don't see that as what are you referring that as? Are you referring that like, oh, that's like wartime during Joe Biden or Barack Obama, or are you just listing different times in American history where like we've went over there and done unconstitutional things to other countries because we can? Because I'm not gonna sit here and say that America is not one of the most ruthless countries when it comes down to like taking what we want from other countries. I'm not gonna say that we don't do that. What I'm saying is that according to your declaration in our comments, is that we have always had a president at war, and I told you no, we haven't. The majority of the time we have had presidents at war, and we had one president inherit a war and dissolve it, and we had another president inherit a war and dissolve it, where ultimately Democratic presidents are inheriting a war from Republican presidents and then dissolving the war. And then a Republican gets back into office and then a war starts again. But we're not in a situation where we always have a president at war. And when you're naming different excursions where a specific political leader of a specific country gets taken out, kidnapped, abducted, however you want to look at it, assassinated, however you want to look at it. That's I'm not saying that that's not a fucked up situation for us to do. What I'm saying is that is not war. War is blowing the fuck up out of a country and laying everything to waste and complete dismantling of its infrastructure. I mean, Kids can't even go to school anymore. Casualties in the thousands, if not millions. I mean, you know, targeting hospitals and schools and nurseries, and just really the devastation like nothing you've ever seen before. That's what I would see as like what oil. He said, "Old man creates war, young men fight them." Right. And Donald Trump is the old man creating the war, and all of the kids that are between 18 and 26 are going to get drafted in that war. Uh, he said Gaddafi was the president of Libya. Okay, but my question to you was, when you mentioned Gaddafi and then you mentioned Libya, I asked you, was that something that just happened in American history, or was that something that specifically happened during the Obama reign or the Joe Biden reign, in support of Michael's claim that Joe Biden and Barack Obama was like in the midst of war tactics? That was my question to you, Joe. Because I'm not saying that American history it didn't happen. What I'm saying is that his comment about war and his comment about us starting wars or every president being involved in some type of war scenario, versus me saying that no, we've always kicked off some shit somewhere with other people, but it wasn't war status. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that Barack Obama was a saint, or that Joe Biden was a saint, or Democrats are the best thing since sliced bread. But what I'm saying is that he didn't. Joe Biden and Barack Obama didn't send a 250,000 troops over to another country to lay waste to that country for political reasons. That's what I'm saying. Whatever was out there was already out there. Reinforce the troops, bring them home. Right. That's what the Democratic presidents were doing. Reinforce what's already out there and bring them back. That's what they were doing. But the Republican presidents were like, nah, fuck this. I don't like what's going on. I'm pushing a button. Everybody go out there and kick somebody's ass. That's completely different. We were at home and now we're going out there to kick somebody's ass. That's going to war, right? And that doesn't always happen with Democrats, right? Venezuela, and Michael's name is Venezuela, but Donald Trump was doing Venezuela. That's what I'm talking about, Michael. So he said, I like your oil. I like my oil too. I like my oil shirt. I like my oil background. Only reason we didn't have war was America was poor. Doesn't change the fact that, okay, here's the logic behind this, Michael. Here's the logic behind this. I don't say always and I don't say never, for the specific reason that always and never is too broad of a spectrum of a statement that always has a outlier that completely contradicts always or never, right? We don't always have a president that goes to war, but the majority of them do. Not every president has been involved in wartime situations, but a lot of presidents have. You proved yourself wrong when you claimed that all presidents have been in wartime situations, because we had at least one president in the history of our country that wasn't in wartime history, even if it was because we were poor. That's what I'm pointing out. Yeah, Joe Jack, that's what I do here. All I do is try to make it make sense. He said there's no boots on the ground yet, so you don't know that. Well, okay, so you're gonna say that there's no boots on the ground because we are at the border of Iran's coast with the majority of our best fleets blowing shit up over there. So what we need is soldiers in the neighborhoods of Iran laying waste to children with AK-47s, where the kids are dropping their mags. Uh, you know that would make you say wartime, right? Take a lot of our kids right now with the Glock switches from California and send them out to Afghanistan and have them catch all the Iranian kids at the traffic lights, and you know what I mean? That you would call that war, right? That's what you're saying. I believe it was Obama, but I'm not sure. So you believe? So let's see uh, let's find out. Let's find out. Let's see. Let's look at involved in the attack on Libya. Let's see. I like to be clear. So we have several United States presidents that have been involved in military attacks on Libya, but two stand out depending on which episode that you mean. There was a 1986 bombing of Libya, Operations El Dorado Canyon. The president involved in that was Ronald Reagan. He ordered U.S. airstrikes against Libya on April 15th of 1986 in retaliation for Libyan-backed terrorist attacks, including the West Berlin uh, dis what is that? Discothic bombing. Okay, and then 2011 is what you're talking about. Uh, Intervention in Libya. NATO led an airstrike campaign, which is a no-fly zone, where the president involved in that one was Barack Obama. Under his administration, the United States participated in a airstrike and enforcement of a no-fly zone over Libya in 2011, and framed as protecting civilians during the uprising against uh, Muammar Gaddafi. So, since you're specifically saying that Libya was Obama, we verified that Libya was Obama. Um, Neither of the major U.S. attacks on Libya were formally a time of war in the sense of a declared war, but both were real combat operations carried out during peacetime in the legal sense. So, in the 1986 bombing under Reagan, the April 15th, 1986 U.S. bombing of Libya was a short retaliatory airstrike, not part of a formally declared war, and it is usually described as a military strike or retaliatory attack against Libya targets in Tripoli and uh, Benghazi, carried out in response to terrorism while the United States was otherwise at peace. In 2011, Libya's intervention under Obama for the 2011 operation was a NATO led military intervention to enforce a United Nations authorized no fly zone and protect civilians. Excuse me, protect civilians in the context of Libya's civil war, where they were fighting themselves, and we were just like, nobody go there. Not a United States declaration of war on Libya. So the United States role, Operation Odyssey Dawn, then NATO's Operation Unified Protector, involved sanctioned sustained air and naval strikes, but it was framed legally as enforcing United Nations Security Council Resolution 1973 rather than entering into a traditional state of war. So let's see. Hold on. He says boots on the ground will be 20 May through 20 June. Okay, Michael says that they're gonna put boots on the ground real soon. Ronald Reagan, take down that wall. Uh, I see we hit a war rabbit hole. You noticed that, right? You noticed that, right? I'm gonna do this last one, and then we're gonna go back to the main topic. So for the 2026 Iran conflict over the oil, we are in what officials and the media are openly calling a war, and a key attack has directly targeted oil and gas infrastructures and shipping. So is this wartime in the legal or political sense? Major outlets and reference works explicitly describe this as the 2026 Iran war centered on Iran, but involving the United States, Israel, and regional partners. So, unlike Libya in 1986 or 2011, this is not framed as a brief operation or limited humanitarian intervention. It is treated as an ongoing regional war with systemic economic and energy impacts. So, reinforcing what I was telling you guys before, We're currently at a war that nobody really wants to agree with, right? It's gonna fuck with us, right? But during Obama and Biden's position, we weren't at war. We just sent some troops out there to go fuck somebody up. And the difference between fucking somebody up, whether we kidnap somebody, whether we blew up somebody's house, whether whatever, it was a short-lived, uh, you know, can whoop ass in another country while we were otherwise at peace. Right now, we're not at peace. We can't fly to certain places right now. Give uncommon woman the finger, she'll make a great monitor. I'm gonna see what I can do after the show about what I can do because I think I have to add them on outside of the active live. He said my later Obama stated not preferred for after Gaddafi was the worst mistake of his presidency. Hey, I'm not even gonna argue with that, bro. I don't because I don't agree with a lot of things that these presidents do, but at the same time, the reason why I cover these topics is because it really impacts our ability to make and save and invest money. It's going to impact our ability to travel. It's going to impact our ability to invest in other countries. It's going to impact our ability to start businesses in other countries. So I don't do these types of topics from the position that I'm for or against any political party or any political action. I do it from the sense of how would this shit fuck with our money? Because on a day-to-day basis as Americans, we allow so many things to go over the top of our head, not paying attention to the long-term ramifications that's going to happen to our direct paycheck, our direct spending capabilities, how the prices are going up at the grocery store, how we're looking at $6 a gallon and it hasn't even gotten to the hottest part of summer yet. How the light bill is going to go up, how the water bill is going to go up. You know what I mean? How interest rates are going to go up, and car insurances are going to go up, how it's going to become harder to mortgage houses and shit like that because of the bullshit that's going on with other places. And this is stuff that we cannot control. And what I do is I cover the things that we cannot control that indirectly impacts our abilities to survive. And then I give us some solutions in some situations on how we can navigate around what we cannot control so that it doesn't hurt us as much. Because one of the reasons why we went through the depression in the past was because nobody knew the shit was coming. Nobody was prepared for it. And the people who get hurt the most are the bottom 50%, preferably the bottom 25%. So when you're making less than 75,000 a year, you're hurting more than the people who are making less than $250,000 a year, but making more than 100,000 a year. Right. So that's the reason why I cover the topics. So we do talk about on Mondays how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money, not because I come from a political position, but because this shit is going to hurt our money, right? Joe says, and make sure y'all like and subscribe as y'all come through here because y'all going to learn a lot of stuff from me as we go through the next couple of weeks of information when we start covering the cyber attacks, we start covering investment opportunities and all this other stuff. So we got a lot of stuff for y'all to learn. And you might have just stumbled on the show today and be like, damn, but we've got years of information, building trusts, starting LLCs, creating businesses from the ground up, international investing, international banking, offshore bank accounts, we cover all kind of stuff. This is not a political platform. It just so happens that politics impacts our money. But he says, I agree with that too, because after all there was Fast and Furious, Benghazi, lots of mistakes. Call it a conflict then. Well, Michael, if you're going to change your statement and say that every president has been involved with a conflict in another country, then yes, I'll agree with you on that. Well, that's a straw man agreement. Yes, sir. If we got a third term, we would definitely be fun. He said, it also is an opportunity to make money too. And that is one of the biggest reasons why I cover the topic. Because not only does it negatively impact your ability to make, save, and invest money, it also enhances your capabilities to make money in certain areas. Because where the wealthy pull their money out, the broke people can put their money in and catch that shit at the basement level. So when the wealthy put their money back after conflict is over, your shares will explode and you will receive so much money on the back end of investing during conflict. Capitalism is heartless. You look at chaos and conflict and say, I can put my money in here and turn a profit. I can put my money where people are dying and I can make a profit. I can put my money in blood diamonds and make a profit because there is a profit there. somebody is going to get paid for doing something they ain't got no business doing. And if I invest in the company that's doing it, I can turn a profit. He said, but the broke people don't have money to put in there. That's bullshit. Hold on. Look, Joe, I love how you think, but I want you to imagine the reason why broke people are broke are not because they don't make money, it's because they don't spend their money wisely. So broke people have enough money for clubs, house parties, name brand clothes, name brand shoes, luxury cars, expensive cell phones, fake hair, fake nails, fake eyelashes, 20-inch stiletto heels. They've got money for bullshit. Look at what happened with these kids with the prom that just happened in 2026. These kids going to fucking high school prom with Bentleys and Rolls Royces and private jets and tens of thousands of dollars of cash in their pocket and dresses made of $100 bills. Broke folks waste money. The reason why they're broke is because they waste money. America is considered one of the richest countries in the world because there's so much money being made in America. It's just that 75% of Americans don't spend their money correctly. That's one of the reasons why broke folks are broke folks. They're not broke because they don't make enough. They're broke because what they made, they wasted on some bullshit that they did not have to spend. Because the high school prom that all those broke folks wasted their money on to give their kids the best day of that kid's entire life today could have went towards those kids' tuition. It could have went toward buying houses for those kids to have stable housing so that they would not have to live in the hood no more. It could have went towards starting up businesses so that the kids would have an occupation where they work for themselves and build themselves up instead of working for somebody else and being talked down to like a slave. All of the stuff that money could have went towards, instead, it went towards impressing the neighborhood by wasting a bunch of money on your kids' a high school prom, using the extra money you got back from taxes because the tax laws changed, which means next year your money is not going to be the same way because they're not going to be taking as much from you next year. Your refund is going to be regular next year. This year you had an inflated refund, and what they did with it, they wasted it. They should have took advantage of that and built their life up off of that money, right? That's why they're broke. He said, going hard on gas stocks lately. You ain't never lying, bro. Hundreds of dollars at a time. He said, Joe, that is true. Broke people don't have buying power. Broke people have buying power, Michael. They just don't buy the right shit. He said, yeah, I'm guilty of that too. But see, the difference is, Joe, you might have spent a few $100s at the bar. You might have spent a little extra money on a girl, taking her out on a date, or just for the hookup, whatever the case may be. You might have wasted a little extra money on gas going to hang out with some friends somewhere, but you didn't spend $5,000 on one night. You didn't spend $10,000 on entertaining your neighbors. You know what I mean? But that's the reason why, stimulating the economy. When Donald Trump changed those laws, the only thing he did was take more work out of the U.S. government for giving back refunds and put more money into the pockets of the people who are going to spend the most money. And instead of having the government go from the top down with money, he went from the bottom up with money. He put more money in the hands of the people who are going to spend it so that they could spend more money to stimulate the economy. Why take money out of the richest pocket? That's not going to benefit him because, I mean, everybody who controls the government is part of the top 1%. Why take money out of the pocket of the wealthy and stimulate the pockets of the poor when you can just put more money in the hands of the poor and they're going to spend it on the wealthy? Because who's going to get, when poor people spend money, they spend it on the products that are being sold by the companies that are being owned by the top 1%. So, do I take more money out of the rich people's pockets and put it into the hands of the poor people's pockets so that they can put it back into the hands of the rich people's pockets? Or do I just let the poor people get more money off of the jobs that they work for so that they can waste more of that money on putting money back into the rich? It's a bottom up effect. It's a reverse stream of capital. He said, which means the value of houses will drop. The value of houses are not dropping right now because you have more houses for sale than people able to buy. And as people's credit is starting to improve, the buying power of people starting to improve, which also means because Donald Trump just changed a bunch of laws where single family homes are going to be prioritized for single family investors, not companies. So the real estate is going to be stable for the next 2 or 3 years in my observation. But the value of houses is going to depreciate as those broke people start foreclosing on their houses. He said, same results in the end, I guess. True, yeah. It's gonna be the same result. They're not gonna have shit. It's just instead of taking from the constituents that put the most effort into to Donald Trump's campaign, he put it into the ones who have a problem with wasting money. He he said, I won't pay for a kid's college. But I mean, you wouldn't pay for your kid's prom, not fucking $50,000 for your kid's prom. Is it? Yes. Reverse uh reganimatics. Very good. It's something that people don't pay attention to. And when you start thinking about it, you're like, oh well, fuck. In that case, he didn't do shit for the poor. But I told you when he was running that he wasn't doing shit for the poor. When he changed the laws for high earner investors, what did I say? I said, well, let's start being a high earner investor. Let's start putting all of our money in brokerage accounts and start getting those dividend deductions on taxation so that we can live off of our brokerage account since that's where the laws are going instead of us living off of our presence getting paid by the hour to kiss ass to somebody who has no respect for us. Because most of us recognize, especially if you work third shift, your boss is at home sleeping while you're at work making money for your boss. Why are you not putting your money in a place where your money is making money for you so that you can be at home sleeping like a boss? Instead of the poor minded people who think, let me spend a bunch of money for society so that they can call me a boss in society because I spent more money than other people have made. That is not a boss mentality. That's a broke man mentality. It's a broke minded mentality. For you to walk into a nightclub like Floyd Mayweather and spend 10,000 in a strip club in one night, that's not boss mentality. That is wasteful mentality, right? Because everybody else who didn't spend that $10,000 opportunity cost could have put that $10,000 somewhere and gotten 20% return, where you would be getting like $2,000 a year off of that $10,000 from that one night of being wasteful. You do that every week at $10,000 a week. You know what I mean? You start developing some money. You start talking about like $520,000 a year worth of wasted money in strip clubs that would have likely been giving you back over $100,000 a year in dividend returns, where your ass wouldn't need to do nothing else. So instead of fixing fights to get extra money, he could have just invested the money. He said, "Yeah, but don't you need a substantial amount to live off of in a brokerage account?" Actually, that depends on how much. That depends on the profit margins because as you see the stocks that are going across the screen right now, Stephen can verify it as well. There are undervalued stocks that right now, because of the war, are very cheap that are dividend paying stocks. You can run anywhere depending on how you budget it, how you value it, and in the membership, I've got different spreads on how you can put some stocks together. Um, Depending on how you do it, anywhere between 12 and 20% return on your portfolio, depending on whether you're going to put it all on REITs or if you're going to diversify and put more on growth and less on REITs or whatever the case may be. But when you're getting 20% or 18% or 12% return on your principal, if you're trying to get, say, $12,000 a year back, or let's say the average person might want to get like $30,000 a year for their base standard of living, not all of their lifestyle creep, not all of the luxuries of life, just covering your rent, light, gas, car insurance, phone bills, just the basic shit, right? Around about 30,000 a year. If you're getting around 12 to $15,000 a year, which is about a 15% return off of every $100,000 that you put into the account, you would likely have to put away like 200 grand. Now, the thing is, people are going to think diving into that, I don't have 200 grand. You don't. But Prospect Capital is like $2.20 or $2.40 a share. Orchid Island is like $7 a share. Ellington Residential is like $4.50 a share. So for a case of beer, you could buy 3 shares of stock. For a pack of cigarette, you could buy 4 shares of stock. For a keg of beer for a house party, you could buy 20 shares of stock. So when you start thinking about how if you just stop to taking a girl out to the movies, that's 15 shares of stock. The things that you do to personal gratification for the right now that is going to make you depressed later because you didn't have enough money to go around when you were spending your money on this stupid stuff. And now you have even less money because you didn't put the stuff on responsibility. You put the stuff on entertainment to distract you from responsibility. Now that you don't have enough money to cover your responsibility, now that the gratification is over, you're still depressed. But if instead of wasting your money on short-term gratification, you invested that money on growth and you invested that money on building up wealth, then eventually, whether it be 1 year, 5 years from now, you would no longer be broke. You would have more money coming in from a second income because your brokerage account pays dividends. You're still making your day-to-day paycheck off of however many jobs you're working on, but now you're seeing a third income coming from your brokerage account. When your brokerage account starts covering your primary bills, you can start paying your primary bill with your brokerage account and then taking your money and putting it directly on your brokerage account. When you start covering your entire standard of living with your brokerage account, you can start paying your bills 2 months in advance and then start paying all your bills from your brokerage account, take your whole paycheck and put it onto your brokerage account. That way you don't, you said, where do you buy them? Hold on, you buy them from a brokerage account. I can give you a link to one. I can give you a link to one. Steve will tell you. Hold on a second because we got a lot of comments going on here real quick. Um, Steven said, Michael says, average cost for a bachelor's degree is $120,000. When they graduate high school, I'll buy them an investment property. That's what I'm trying to tell you. He said, did you get into the stock party? Oh yeah, for the Tesla stock. I was looking at that Tesla stock just the other day, bro. Hold on, let me grab that stock real quick. I'm glad you special shout out to Steven. Steven, they throwing away free stock right now. Let me go ahead and grab that shit because I know the countdown was talking. I want to get in that bit right now. Let me get into that bit right now. Hit claim my stock. Boom. But it's 5 days, 22 hours, 5 minutes, and 40 seconds left to claim that stock. But I did grab it, Steven. I appreciate you telling me about that stock party, about that Tesla stock. I'm gonna get that. But let me go. Let me grab the link real quick because my man is asking where do you get the stuff from? And I can tell you right now. Hold on. Let me see. Uh, let me pull this up real quick. Boom. uh, wait, hold on. Let me copy that. Here, if you click this link right here, well, it's not a hyperlink in the comment section, but this link right here for you guys that are watching on the 16:9, this link right here. Um, if you type that into your phone, click the link, and then take you to the stock. It'll give you $30 for signing up, where it's like $36 a year at $3 per month. But if you do the annual membership, it's $32 a month. So you basically get your first year for $2. And in the membership, there is a list of stocks. Prospect Capital, AGNC, Armor Residential, Orchid Island, Ellington Residential, Arbor Realty, DHT Holdings, which is the oil companies that are part of the war right now, International Seaways, which is also part of the war right now, Altura Group, which is cigarettes and stuff, Real Estate Income or Reality Income Corporation, Main Street Capital, Stag Industries, Johnson & Johnson, Chevron, Exxon, Shell, Oracle Corporation, which is TikTok right now, Broadcom, which is a tech company, Cameo CCJ, Kamiko. These are all stocks, and there's about 17 to 19 of them here that are in the membership right now, and the membership is very cheap. If you wanted to dive into the membership and get financial information like this on a regular basis, but these stocks are there, and you will be looking at roughly. Let me see what was my calculations on this one. You would likely I got rollouts on how you can rebalance these portfolios and everything to that effect, where you would be looking at pre-tax yields, a combination of, is that 12%? I'm doing after taxes calculations on this one. So you would be looking at, if we did this on a massive thing. So if we did on the 18 stocks that I was talking to you about, there's about 18 stocks there. You have 55% of them that's going to be the high dividends, 25% that's going to be moderate dividends, and then the 20% is going to be more growth stocks. That particular portfolio throws off a little bit more pre-tax income, which is around about $10,210 a year if you're putting up a large quantity of money on that, which is approximately closer to 12%. which is ultimately $850 a month. But then if we did the 19 stocks, because I had threw in extra stocks like AVGO and CCJ, that one would be like 9,700 a year because we'd be putting more money towards um, lower dividend paying stocks, more growth stocks, but that would be giving us an income of about 9,700 a year, $810 a month if we were invested in some of these stocks. So it's just like he said, share should hit $500 a share, right? So when we're talking about this, when you ask like where do you get it, there's the link. I give you guys the link. I tell you guys where to go. He said, the problem happens. I'm the last one to hear about it. Well, Michael, if you were in the membership, you would be one of the first people to hear about it because, and then he asked that question, why not become a boss? I, I try to tell people that's what I do on the show on a regular basis. On a daily basis, I'm giving you reasons why you should be your own boss, why you should be able to run your own life, why you should not have to work for somebody else to get a paycheck. Because I talk to you guys about how politics is fucking with your money, how you can profit off of that. On Tuesdays, I talk about ways to invest, how to budget your money so that you have more money to invest, how to make better financial decisions, not loaning out money to people in your friend group, in your social group that makes bad financial decisions. And making a bad financial decision doesn't mean that, oh, they went and invested in something they weren't supposed to invest in. They bought something with their bill money that they wasn't supposed to buy, or they made a bad choice and let them in jail, and now you got to go bail them out. They got caught up in not even a Ponzi scheme, but they got caught up with a couple chicks in a nightclub, ran up a bar tab, and now you got to come pay a bar tab. If your friend is if your friend or family member is in a bad spot because they made choices that they weren't supposed to make, and now that is negatively impacting you, I give you guys all kinds of information on how to change the way you make decisions so that you are not personally impacted by your network. Because if you are the most successful person in your network, which you should never be, but if you are, everyone depends on you. It's an upside down pyramid. When you fall, everybody falls. But when everybody else needs something, you're the one that's going to help them out. But when you need help, nobody can help you because nobody had money when they came and asked you for money. And that's one of the reasons why they came and asked you for money. And because you're willing to give it to them for free, they can subsidize their fuckery by asking you for a bailout. People don't think about that until they come to the show. So in the membership, there's all kind of information in the membership on how to avoid that, how to build money online, how to build startup businesses, how to automate the businesses. There's so much stuff that's going on right now. But today we're going to be talking about politics. So we still got a little ways to go. So I want to go ahead and get back into it. But you asked if you're interested, Joe Jack, you go ahead and go take a look at that and see what's going on. But I grabbed my Tesla stock just now, and Steven told me about it. Now, this is going to be the next step to this, as it relates to the potential third term, because I know that's what a lot of people came for. We was talking about stock options and stuff like that, but today is about the third term discussion. We have a very recent example of how hard it is to change politics and constitutions. In January of 2025, a Republican Congressman, Andy Ogles, introduced a resolution to repeal the 22nd Amendment already because we start talking about doing this. Now, his proposal was tailored to allow for a non-consecutive third term, right? Which would really only apply to Donald Trump. So what happened? It went absolutely nowhere. It died in the committee, failing to get anywhere close to the support that it needed to vote for, let alone a 2/3 majority vote, getting 67 senators and 290 House members and 38 states from both parties to agree on changing presidential term limits is realistically a political impossibility today, right? So amending the Constitution isn't a strategy, it's a fantasy. And without that, the 22nd Amendment is a supreme law of the land. So what Trump and his allies are actually doing, since the legal barriers are basically enormous and extremely high, insurmountably high, matter of fact, it's going to be a fair question for a lot of people to ask. Why do Trump and his allies keep talking about that third term? This rhetoric has been a constant part of his political brand, swinging between what he calls jokes and what sounds like serious tests of political boundaries. During his first term, he often made comments that he seemed like a joke, right? He praised China's president Xi Jinping for getting rid of the term limits, saying president for life sounded pretty good. At rallies, he would tease the crowd with the idea of 12 more years, often saying he was just doing it to get a rise out of the media. But after winning the second term in 2024, the talk has gotten more intense. At events like the CPAC in 2025, merchandise with Trump 2028 started showing up. In interviews, his language became more direct. He admitted the Constitution was pretty clear, but added, too bad. He told one interviewer, I'm not joking, and insisted there are methods to get a third term, right? Michael says, being your own boss, you don't have to answer to anyone but the bank. Actually, Michael, being your own boss, you don't have to answer to the bank. The bank answers to you. You know, he says, you need a bailout, get a job. That's what I'm talking about. They need a bailout, get a job. Man, I was waiting on some folks to come over here and come and put some extra oomph in it. Now, this talk amplified by his biggest supporters. Allies like Steve Bannon made bold statements in 2025 saying Trump is going to be the president in 2028 and people ought to get acclimated with that. And this feeds a narrative within his base that the old rules don't apply or can be broken in some way, shape, or form. He said, I lead him down the rabbit hole. You do, but I dig us back out. Now, at the same time, Trump also strategically backs away from the comments in early 2026. He dismissed it all as just messing with the radical left. Now, this back and forth serves a few political goals. It keeps him in the news and his opponents on defense. It fires up his most loyal supporters who see it as a sign of his willingness to fight the system. And it lets him test political boundaries without committing to a plan that would be legally doomed. Critics like Democratic Representative Dan Goldman calls this rhetoric dangerous, arguing it wears down respect for the Constitution. Even many Republican leaders, while not publicly criticizing Trump, privately admit there's no path to a third term and sees the talk as public showmanship. So while the chatter is loud, it's not backed by any serious legal or political strategy. No one on his team has ever laid out a blueprint for a third term that could actually serve a court challenge. It wouldn't even survive the court challenge. I appreciate you, Michael. I'm gonna see you tomorrow, man. Instead, the rhetoric seems to be more of a tool, right? It's actually, like we say all the time, ways to get everybody going. Um, and this tool is going to be used for engagement, for firing up the base, and for testing the norms, not a realistic legal goal. Now, this whole conversation isn't just a legal game about one amendment. It gets to the core of the American experiment. The 22nd Amendment is there for a deep and important reason. The peaceful transfer of power is the bedrock of the functioning democracy. Because remember, we had two governments early on in American history. We had the North and the South. Now, a peaceful transfer where the one leader steps down and another leader steps up is what we're supposed to have. Term limits are the fundamental shield against a slow creep towards authoritarianism. The idea of a president for life concentrates enormous power in one person for a long term, like Kim Jong Un. That can lead to a leader who feels they are above the law and who becomes less and less accountable to the people. George Washington stepping down after two terms was an act of incredible foresight. He understood that the office was bigger than one person holding it. The 22nd Amendment is the legal expression of that idea. Challenging this principle has real consequences. It destabilizes the entire political system. The um, expectations of regular, predictable elections is a cornerstone of an American democracy. And when that's thrown into question, it fuels polarization, unrest, and a crisis of faith in the process itself. Plus, Americans' commitment to term limits has long been a part of its global influence. The United States has historically pushed for democratic norms around the world, including limits on executive power. When a major American leader flirts with ignoring those same limits, it weakens our moral authority and it gives cover to. We were talking so long, the second headset died. This is going to give cover to authoritarians in other countries who rewrite their own constitutions to stay in power, right? So ultimately, this debate is a test of whether we're a nation of laws or a nation of men. Democracy's strength is in its institutions and rules that apply to everyone, regardless of party or personality. So when you bend or break those rules for one person, you set a precedent that they can be broken for anyone. The 22nd Amendment is more than just a rule, it's a reflection of a core American value. Power is temporary, leaders are accountable, and the country is governed by a constitution, not by any one person's ambitions. So, after looking at the history, the law, and the political noise, what's going to be the bottom line here? The Constitution is a living document and it can be changed. You are correct. And it cannot be changed very easily. It is easier to get an abortion than it is to change the Constitution. Even with the current abortion laws that requires the baby to agree to the abortion before the baby gets aborted, it's easier to get an abortion than it is to change the Constitution right now. Because you need almost 400 people to agree before it goes to state, and then you need all 50 states to agree, or the largest majority of the 50 states to agree. So you're talking about like 200 million Americans roughly have to agree to this in order for something like this to happen. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. The more people involved, the harder it is to come to an agreement, right? When it's just five people, it's easy. But when you start talking about a 500, when you start talking about like 5,000, it's kind of hard to get everybody on the same page, even when you're talking about majority rules. Because like since he's already done two terms and a lot of the people who voted for him regret their decision, uh, even if a third term was possible, do they even really want to vote for him again? It doesn't matter whether or not he did good or not. Anybody who voted for Trump who regrets their decision is not going to vote for Trump. And if those people are the same people who are going to vote for a third term for Trump, they're not going to vote for it. Because why open the door for something they don't want to have happen anyway, right? If they were all for like, oh yeah, well, Trump should have a third term. If 75% of Congress wanted Trump to stay in office, Trump would still be in office, right? They would have changed it. But less than half wanted Trump to be in office. And the majority of them are supposed to be supporters of Trump, allegedly. The conclusion is going to be clear here. The idea of Donald Trump surviving a third presidential term, figuratively and by age, under the current legal system, and the constitutional observation is going to be incredibly impossible. Special shout out to Kennedy, the great white hope. Uh, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I mean, I know a lot of white people might be hoping for him, but not a lot of us are benefiting from what's going on. A lot of us can benefit from what's going on, but not a lot of us are making the right decisions. Some people call him king. I know. I seen Michael up here earlier calling him king, but Michael's like 71 years old. You got to recognize that how old are the people calling him king? Because if they were born back in 1940 something, you can imagine why. Why are they they holding king rallies? I ain't never been to a king rally. Well, no. Okay, so last time I heard about king rallies, you said they're holding king rallies around the world. Last time I heard about king rallies around the world was Martin Luther King, Martin the Luther of the King. uh, the 22nd Amendment isn't a suggestion at this time. It's a direct binding command. So, as it stands, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. That's the written verbiage. He has already been elected twice. The limit has already been met. The history from Frederick D. Roosevelt, 4 terms in a lifetime, shows that this amendment was created for the exact situation such as this. The so called loophole where the VIP ploy, the non consecutive theory, fall apart under the legal scrutiny blocked by the plain text of the 12th and 22nd Amendments and repealed. The amendment repealing this amendment would require a level of political unity that is simply unimaginable today. And so it's not impossible because it's written in history. It's impossible because you can't get 450 people to agree out of 501. That's why it's impossible, right? The constant chatter about a third term might be a great political theater. It might be a good way to rally a base and test the boundaries, but it doesn't change the legal reality. He does still have 2 years left, though, because even though he might not be able to get it done this year, if some members of Congress get shifted around during this year's elections, if the right people are put in place by the end of this year, he can put it into action at the beginning of next year and get it overturned in 2027 so that by 2028, the third term becomes a thing. One of the reasons why they're changing voting zones right now in 2026 could be in preparation for that. However, as long as the United States is a country governed by its constitution, the 2 term limit is going to be absolute. This whole debate is a powerful reminder of how resilient our democracy is with the institutions that we have laid down so far. Norms can be pushed and rhetoric can be heated, but the structural guardrails of the Constitution, written in plain English, are still the final word. The presidency is an office, not a possession, and its limits are a feature, not a bug, of the American system. So, if you guys if you stayed here this long and you found this breakdown useful and you want more clear fact-based explanations of complex political and legal topics, please make sure that you guys take the opportunity to consider subscribing to this channel. He said, I support Kanye West for man, you might as well just vote for R. Kelly. What the hell is you trying to put Kanye West in office for? Um, Now, if you put Kanye West in office and then his trusted advisor is Donald Trump, you still got to get the same stuff. We can do some puppet strings now. Yeah, wait, since we're electing convicts, why don't we just put Puff Daddy in office? How about that? then let's put the president in office that's going to put the purge into law. That one lawless day. right? See how well that works out. However, if you guys know somebody who's confused about this situation, make sure that you guys share tonight's show with them. And you got to remember that in an era of so much misinformation, understanding what the laws actually say is more important than ever. And that's one of the reasons why when you come to this and that, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, oh, Steven, I just got new information. Um, the show is actually now also listed under society. I was like, what? We've got an extra listing for the podcast. I was looking, and I was like, because I had some people that was talking to me, and we had there was some marketing stuff that I was doing for the podcast, and because there's some products that I haven't shown yet. I'm going to be putting it into a short and then showing you guys about it. But um, there was this where is it? Um, the show is described now as society, business, lifestyle, and knowledge. That's the four topics that we are listed under for Wikipedia pages that describe the type of content that we provide to you guys. So if you guys want to learn more about the truth behind society, business, lifestyle, and gaining knowledge, financial improvement, personal development, and other such things, you guys gotta make sure that you take your sweet time and rush over there and go and like and subscribe to the channel and then go take a look at those memberships because you can get what is it like almost $3 a month for the membership, but you can get more from me 2 3 hours a night, 7 nights a week, every week out of the month than what you can get from $300 an hour for a financial advisor. You can get more information from me than a life coach for less money. I'm cheaper than your Planet Fitness membership, and I'm giving you more information to improve your life than most lawyers. You can take all this information from me, collaborate it together, do your own research, packet that shit, then bring it to your lawyer and get it verified. And by the time you get it verified, you're only sitting with your lawyer for 1 hour instead of sitting there for 5. You would have effectively saved so much money by consolidating what you want and giving it to your lawyer and saying, "Can you make this happen?" That's a 20-minute conversation, not spending half a day working out with your lawyer what you really want, what you can and cannot do, and all this other stuff. See what I'm saying? So we give you guys a lot of information. And for those individuals that's going to follow our lead and be a part of the community and grow, we're going to end up in a situation in 10, 20 years from now that we're not going to be the way we are in 2026. Everybody else that dives in and disappears and never comes back or comes back and entertains himself with the rhetoric that we have, but never actually puts effort into towards improving themselves in 10, 15 years, they're going to still be in the same spot that they're in right now, maybe with a new job, maybe living in a new neighborhood, but still with the same paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. Looking back at this podcast, like, man, I remember when he was talking about this, blah, 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 blah. But now I'm doing a show from different countries around the world. It is what it is, you know? So it's up to y'all. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing the second part of our two-part topic about cybersecurity because Stephen had asked us, one of my members, Stephen, special shout out to Dylan, also the other one of the other members that we have, where he asked about identity theft and stuff to that effect. I gave him some information in the membership about how to protect your identity with um, programs and stuff like that that monitors your identity. So go take a look at that if you haven't done that yet. That's what we got for Tuesday. We got different countries around the world. The show is pre-listed right now for the next couple of months. And I'm still adding stuff as we go along. So make sure that you guys take a look at what we've got set up. Um, Beyond that, I'm going to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I give you all this information to make you guys higher value men, not just by improving your finances, but also by improving your decision making skills. If you guys pay attention to the things that are inside of your control that you don't like and put in the effort to make those changes, you can improve your lifestyle and then have the capabilities of navigating around the things that are outside of your control, right? Then, ladies, while this is a male driven podcast from a male's perspective, you too can make yourself higher value women by prioritizing your 20 or 30-year plan, reverse engineering. What do you got to do to get to where you want to be and start putting forth the actions and efforts into accomplishing those goals today? If you keep your eyes and ears open for those potential suitors, You're instead of looking at his money, you look at his integrity, you look at his personality, his characteristics, his determination, his drive, his ambition, his motivation. Look at his long-term goals. See if his long-term goals match with your long-term goals, and that's when you know that you have a person that you guys can build with, right? And with that dynamic, two people can make it to $1 million faster than one if you guys are working together for the same long-term goals, right? I've shown you guys on the show plenty of times how two $30,000 a year incomes can make it to $1.5 million between 10 and 20 years. I've shown you guys how a lot of y'all are making like 50, 55,000 a year. And if y'all are making 50, 55,000 a year, y'all could be making $1 million in less than 5 to 10 years. It just requires you guys to put your money together, live modestly, not living homeless. You got to live modestly. You got to get what you need and stop wasting money on bullshit and start putting money towards long-term life goals, right? Being able to put away 30% or 40% of your household income into a brokerage account fast tracks you, especially if it's a dividend paying brokerage account, fast tracks you to a position where you guys can live off of your assets within 5 or 10 years and ultimately put you in a position where you can likely continue to work for another 5 or 10 more years, where you can double or triple your money, where now lifestyle creep allows you to enhance your lifestyle from the lower income status to the middle income status and still have 25% of your money that can be reinvested back into your brokerage account, where you're living off of half of your money and taking 25% of your money and traveling the world with it. All women who said that they want to travel or they like to travel, but what are you doing to give yourself the capabilities to travel on a regular basis without breaking the bank? Most people don't do squat. So I want you guys to pay attention to that. Take a look at what we got going on for y'all, because we got a lot of stuff that we're going to be exploding into. With that being said, that's all I've got for you for tonight. I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I want to start off by saying special shout out to Stephen, Kenny, Michael, Joe, Anonymous Woman, Uncommon Woman. I want a special shout out to all of y'all. Special shout out to Dylan. I really appreciate you guys. Aztec, special shout out to you as well for coming to the show and showing support towards the show. I appreciate y'all. FX Trader, I didn't forget about you as well. Special shout out to you as well for coming to the show and providing y'all's feedback on what we had going on for tonight's topic. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground.